We have located a map that is no longer here, but we have found a photo of it, and I'm going to show it to the world today. We are given a mainstream narrative, force-fed a narrative from day one, and on average, given more money for the rest of our lives if you continue through this indoctrination program, this system, longer than everybody else, and call it college. We are told these narratives for decades, molding our minds to believe that cathedrals, such as the Hereford Cathedral, was completed in the year 1250, 774 years ago, where we have shown that the mainstream narrative tells us that basically nobody was even here, telling us that the population of nobody was so much more advanced than billions of people that we have today, while at the same time telling us that we are evolving and advancing. A population of basically nobody, knocking out palaces with zero training programs, no lights, no power tools, nothing. And then these palaces are here before us today, looking better than ever, looking better than anything we construct today. Go inside one of them, and you will feel its presence, that they are much more than we are told. We are given a narrative that holds keys that we have found right here on this channel. We have exposed these patterns to the whole world. We have shown that these narratives all over the world are created by the same source. These keys are given to us, and in my opinion, they have always been here, where they were just waiting to see who could find them. I think this is a game, and lucky for us, it's a game that we are very good at. When we dig deeper into this Hereford Cathedral, and we find that its origins held an even earlier church, where the new church had a very short life, of course, for it was plundered and burned down in 1056. It was not, however, destroyed until its custodians had offered vigorous resistance. So we get the fire nod, and now we know that it's time to go deeper and show that this cathedral was built by an extremely advanced civilization, one that we are not being told about, one that constructed these incredible structures all over the world, a population that was much bigger than what we have today, a population that didn't ride around on donkeys. They fully understood how to construct a palace that lasts forever. After hitting the chisel with a hammer all day long, they did not go over to their horse parking spot, where the horse was just standing all day long. They did not ride their horse home and sleep in a wooden shed. This extremely advanced group of people, this group is being hidden from us. And the proof is all over the world. And the coolest part about this research, in my opinion, is that you can go inside these palaces today. And they're in almost every single city in the world. Hereford Castle, check the inside out. Look at those wooden plank benches compared to the incredible construction of the palace itself. Look at the ceilings. The craziest part about this is that there was never a bad construction company in the 1250s, according to the mainstream narrative. Not a single flaw in any country. This fact alone should have alarms going off in everybody's head, if they haven't been going off already. And if they're not going off, I'm gonna fix that right now. A place of worship has existed on the exact same site of this present building since the 700s or earlier. Another narrative where there are multiple buildings on the same site. And we have all the documents backing this statement up. No. This cathedral has the largest library of chained books in the world, where this gets very interesting. This palace is home to the Mappa Mundi, which is its most famous treasure. A map from the old world, in my opinion. We are told this is from over 700 years ago. A map of the old world with Jerusalem at its center. Are we ready to go even deeper? A larger Mappa Mundi, the Ebstorf map, was destroyed by Allied bombings in 1943, though photographs of it survived. Now, we can all see how these operations worked. We understand at this point what wars were most likely used for. We are beginning to understand the entire operation at this point. And through hours and hours of clues, repetition from the narrative, a massive amount of clear lies, there are less and less sitting at the other side of the table. There are thousands of us right now for a reason. Now, let's take a look at this map. Let's pretend that this is a true depiction of where we live. Bombing the other one in 1946, obviously deliberately destroying it. We can see Jerusalem is right here in the center, with Jesus on the cross. You have mermaids down here, and a clear depiction of a griffin, which we know is linked to Tartaria. All of this showing me that there is so much more to our true history than what we are being told in these classrooms. This place that we live is not at all what we are told. On the right-hand side, you have people with faces on their chest. And right above Jesus, you have the Tower of Babel. Now, normally when something is written down, I have a very hard time believing it to be real. But the fact that they bombed the other one definitely shows me that there's something about this map that is very important to us. Let's take a look at the one that they bombed. This is where they tell us that in 1843, they found this map in a convent in northern Germany. It was 12 feet by 12 feet. Again, all centered around Jerusalem. And remember that they tell us a very interesting detail, that they found this map in 1843, where exactly 100 years later, on the dot, in 1943, they bombed it and destroyed it during the Allied bombings. All of this happening during our current civilization, wiping out possibly the true history, possibly the true map. If this place that we live is really centered around Jerusalem, and in 1946, the narrative changed, bombing this map and possibly other things inside that building that would have given a lot of stuff away to us, which was, of course, also in northern Germany, where you can begin to put the pieces together. But you can see what this bombing was, in my opinion, all about. 1946, Germany. The map is gone. This man, a German aerospace engineer and space architect, member of the party that I'm not going to say, so we can keep going. He was the leading figure in development of rocket technology in, you guessed it, where he also worked with a guy named Walt, and you can see his last name right here, which popularized the idea of space travel. We all need to understand at this point that there was zero space talk before this. This space talk is all brand new and all a part of this current timeline that we are all in, and a part of this narrative that we are force-fed. So again, 1943 bombed the map where Jerusalem is in the center. 1944, the V2 became the first artificial object to travel into space just 1 year after removing this old world map. The following year, in 1945, this man was secretly moved to the United States, all a part of an operation that I'll put an arrow to right here. And just 12 years later, all a part of this timeline that we're in, this was created, an operation to remove our history, to remove a map and give us this new one. We have found evidence, in my opinion, that it is very clear that within this game that we are all a part of, we are not given the true map to this game, which we have shown a few times now. Is it possible that Jerusalem is the true center of our map and has changed hands not as long ago as we are all told? The map is based on earlier maps, including the Psalter world map, which we are told yet again that Jerusalem is the center of the map. This one being held in the British Library, which was drawn around 1260, but we have no idea who drew it. Where we know all about the year 1079. We know all about the year 794, where some character was beheaded, where Offa had supposedly consented to give his daughter to Ethelbert in marriage. Why he changed his mind and deprived him of his head, historians do not know. Now, I show this because it's entertaining to me that the narrative gives us these detailed stories. From the year 794, but then leave out the most important details of a groundbreaking map, or can't tell us who built the buildings in 1900, like we've shown in episode 33, when we just emailed them and they couldn't tell us. Going back to this map that was bombed in 1946, I'm going to zoom in on it and show you all that there were no huts. There were no plastic siding houses. Every single depiction is of a palace. Palace after palace after palace across the entire map. And there are a few that remain today. And these are the buildings that we are discussing on this channel. The ones that remain. But we can clearly see that there were so many more that have been removed from our view. I'll scroll around a little so you can all get a good look at this map that is gone now. And then I'm going to show you what I believe is a depiction of the exit to our current map, the one that is being hidden from us. Down here at the bottom left, there is a massive opening where I think that this is definitely part of the reason for trapping our minds and telling us that we are trapped on a ball, flying through space, where, remember, this is a brand new idea, and we all know whose idea it was. We have shown that in this episode. And now there is nowhere to go, where if these maps that have been destroyed are true, then there would be openings, possibly leading to more land, which coincides with this treaty that was introduced in 1959, the exact years that we are talking about here. Destroying this map, 1945, an operation to bring over Walt's friend to the USA. In 1958, we get this group, and 1 year later, in 1959, we get this treaty. Now, this treaty is the only thing in the world that all of these countries can agree on, which should show you that there is something very interesting about it. So just remember that while there are things going on in the world, countries that we are told that they don't like each other, they still agree on something. And this is something that hides a massive truth from all of us.
Tonight is not only our greatest living explorer, but he's been an inspiration to countless Americans. Admiral Byrd, you've been to both the North Pole and the South Pole. Is there any unexplored land left on this Earth that might appeal to adventurous young Americans? Yes, there is.
This treaty covers the area south of the 60th degree south latitude, which means that you just can't get on a boat and set sail and go to Antarctica and see these openings on this map where they tell us that all Antarctica-bound expeditions must be authorized by the operator's own country or the vessel's flag state, where heavy fines can result from non-authorized visits to Antarctica. Would you like to see the openings in our map? A massive operation shut this down in the mid-1900s, and now we have further evidence of this. Again, I do believe that all of this information is here for us to find it. I think this is all available to us. As long as this is something that we want to know. It's all very clear. The more truth that you know, it all makes more and more sense. And it all lines up. Exactly how the truth always does. While a lie is all over the place. I've said this before, but I do think it's possible that they are waiting to see who can find this information. They've left it out there for those that look. Now, the word medieval, in my eyes, is another word for the old world. They explain the narrative away by simply calling it medieval. So let's remember this going forward. Right on their website, the Hereford Cathedral tells us that the medieval cathedral was not monastic. They even tell us that the map that they hold inside this place, the map that we discussed today, is one of the world's unique medieval treasures. Our timeline starts around 1700 and then spikes in the 1800s with massive operations going on in the 1800s. All in my opinion, of course, based on everything that we have seen. But this is why I always check the 1800s for major destruction projects of these incredible palaces. Oh, wait, did I say destruction? I meant restoration. When you go to the mid-1800s yet again, we have the exact same narrative here. 1841 to 1863, major restoration of the cathedral. A cathedral that did not need our help. In fact, we weren't even given the power tool until 1895. So what major renovations could our horse and wagon friends have truly done to this palace? Do you think it's possible that they removed things that did not fit into our mainstream timeline? Before we go into the bonus, I'm going to show you this, how I don't believe that the Mappa Mundi has always been here at this location. I believe that it was put here when we are told the only complete world map of its kind to have survived, a fascinating pictorial encyclopedia of the medieval world, where it may have been, it might have been, maybe, but the mainstream narrative is of course iffy on that. It might have been made for the Hereford Cathedral and has been here for most of its life. Most of its life. Not all of its life? Where was it before? Who really made this map? Why was the other one bombed? This is extremely interesting stuff, especially when this is all on their website. And in my opinion, an admission that this was not theirs. This was not there in that palace for its whole life. They even call it medieval, and they have now taken possession of it. Oh, in 1786, the west tower of the cathedral just collapses overnight on Easter Monday. Just random, of course. Do we think that that was random? You tell me. Clearly a palace from the old world. And just for fun, let's show the repeating names. Robert of Lorraine, Robert de Botton, 4 more Roberts buried here. And then we have 2 Thomases with 3 more Thomases buried there. And we can't leave out a couple Hughes thrown in back to back, located at 651 Main Street, Buffalo, New York, opening in 1877. We have the Dr. Ray V. Pierce Palace Hotel, where this gets wild. We've talked about energy here on this channel, how these buildings hold energy, but this gets deep. The place was half hotel, half hospital, where the baths and gymnasiums on the campus were known nationwide for their healing and restorative powers. A healing hotel. Where is this why a lot of the old world buildings have been destroyed? Because they held healing powers for all of us. Where 2 presidents were frequent visitors. Pierce's Palace Hotel was open only 4 years before it burned down in 1881. And are we right or what? Is this not a nod? I'm not joking. Every time I see this narrative, I am more and more surprised. For one, that we never noticed this before. And for 2, that they really put this in the narrative over and over and over, all over the world. And we know here that that building was much older than just 4 years. And you can see what I'm talking about with all of these fires when we just flip over to the St. Peter's Cathedral Basilica in London, Ontario, and see that they just throw this into the narrative as a nod to their group for future generations, in my opinion, to recognize which buildings are from the previous civilization, where it says that there were multiple churches on this location. The first one was destroyed in the London Fire, 1845, and a larger frame church was built. But this church also burned down in 1850, 5 years later. So now let's get back to this Pierce's Hotel. After that fire that we just showed, in 1881, Pierce opened his Invalids Hotel and Surgical Institute on the 600 block of Main Street, which survived until 1941, where things begin to get interesting. The beginning of the end for the Pierce's Invalids Hotel and Surgical Institute likely came to an end in 1939, when the Federal Trade Commission included this cease and desist order in a stipulation. They were basically no longer allowed to call themselves doctors or medical men. They were no longer able to give medical advice. Not being able to call themselves doctors or call their advice medical advice must have been a lethal blow a little over a year later, where in my opinion, this was the end of this old world medicine, old world healing powers coming to an end when on August 1st, 1941, the Invalids Hotel and Surgical Institute discontinued operations, and Pierce, the one that had this knowledge of old world healings, passes away. And 2 years after that, 1944, Kane announced that they would be destroying all of the Pierce's estate's glass work.